The knock came at 8:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. 3 sharp raps that echoed through Mark Wilson's small apartment like gunshots. He froze, wooden spoon suspended over the pot of mac and cheese, his daughter Lily's favorite dinner and the only thing he could reliably cook without burning. Through the thin walls, he could hear his 6-year-old still singing along to her cartoon in the living room, blissfully unaware that their carefully balanced life was about to implode. When he opened the door to find Catherine Reeves, his boss of 3 years and CEO of Pinnacle Marketing, standing in his hallway in a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, Mark's heart plummeted. Her normally perfect auburn hair was slightly disheveled, and the look in her eyes made his stomach twist. "Catherine? What are? You're fired, Mark." Her voice cracked on his name, something flickering behind her professional facade that he couldn't quite read, and just like that, everything changed. 3 months earlier, Mark Wilson had been late to work for the 3rd time that week. Racing through Pinnacle Marketing's gleaming lobby at 9:17 a.m., his tie askew and dark circles prominent under his eyes, he nearly collided with the receptionist. "Mr. Wilson," she said with a sympathetic smile, "Ms. Reeves asked to see you in her office." Immediately. Mark closed his eyes briefly, swallowing hard. "Thanks, Jenny." The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like a journey to the gallows. Since his wife Emma's death 18 months ago, he'd been barely treading water, a single dad trying to manage a demanding career while raising a heartbroken 5-year-old who still woke up crying for her mother most nights. The promotion to senior account manager 6 months ago had been a lifeline financially, but the increased responsibilities were crushing him. Catherine Reeves sat behind her immaculate glass desk, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows illuminating her features. At 38, she was the youngest CEO in the company's history, known for her brilliant strategic mind and uncompromising standards. "Mark," she said, not looking up from her computer. "Close the door." He did as instructed, then stood awkwardly, clutching his messenger bag. "I'm sorry about being late again. Lily had a rough night and—" "Sit down." She finally looked at him, her expression unreadable. "This isn't just about your tardiness, though that's part of it." Mark sank into the chair across from her, heart hammering. He couldn't lose this job. Not with the medical bills still piling up from Emma's final months, not with the mortgage, not with Lily's future to secure. "The Westfield presentation yesterday," Catherine continued, her voice measured. "You were unprepared. The client noticed." Mark started, then stopped. There was no excuse. He'd fallen asleep reviewing the materials the night before, exhausted after getting Lily to bed and cleaning up the apartment. "This isn't the first time, Mark." Catherine's tone softened slightly. "Your work has been slipping for months. The reports are late, the creative is uninspired, and you missed 2 client calls last week." "I know," he admitted, shame burning his cheeks. "I'm trying, Catherine. I really am." Something flickered in her eyes, compassion, perhaps? But it vanished quickly, replaced by professional detachment. "I understand you're in a difficult situation," she said. "But this is business. I need to know if you can still handle this position." "I can," Mark insisted, leaning forward. "I just need to get better organized. I promise I'll turn this around." Catherine studied him for a long moment. "I'm giving you 1 month to show significant improvement. Otherwise, we'll need to discuss your future at Pinnacle." Relief flooded through him. "Thank you. I won't let you down." As he stood to leave, Catherine added, "And Mark? My door is always open if you need to talk about anything." He nodded gratefully, not recognizing the first hint she'd dropped. The following week, Mark made a genuine effort. He arrived early each morning, having reorganized Lily's morning routine and arranged with a neighbor to help on days when things went sideways. His work improved marginally, though the exhaustion remained a constant companion. On Thursday afternoon, Catherine stopped by his office, something she rarely did with employees below the executive level. "How's the Donovan proposal coming along?" she asked, leaning against his doorframe. Mark looked up, surprised. "Good. I should have the draft ready by tomorrow morning." Catherine nodded, then hesitated. "I was thinking, perhaps we could discuss it over dinner tonight? Sometimes a change of environment helps generate fresh ideas." Mark blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, I can't tonight. I need to get home to Lily. Her babysitter can only stay until 6. "Of course," Catherine said quickly. "Another time, perhaps." She left before he could respond, missing the second hint entirely. That evening, as Mark helped Lily with her bath, his phone pinged with an email from Catherine. It was ostensibly about the Donovan account, but ended with, "By the way, my sister runs a wonderful after-school program that goes until 7:30 p.m. Several of our employees' children attend. Just thought you might find it helpful." Mark sent a polite thank you reply, appreciating the suggestion but not reading between the lines. 2 weeks into his probationary period, Mark was making progress. His work was more focused, his presentations sharper. He'd even managed to land a new client, albeit a small one. But the toll on his personal life was severe. He barely saw Lily except for hurried mornings and exhausted evenings, and the guilt was eating him alive. One afternoon, Catherine called him into a meeting with the executive team. As the discussion wrapped up, she casually mentioned, "We're having drinks at Meridian after work to celebrate the Harrington deal. You should join us, Mark." "I'd love to," he said automatically, then grimaced. "But I can't. It's Lily's school art show tonight." Catherine's expression softened. "Bring her along afterward. My niece is about her age, they could play together while we talk." Mark was touched by the offer but shook his head. "That's really kind, but it'll be past her bedtime." "Another time?" Catherine nodded, a flicker of disappointment crossing her features before she turned away. The third hint sailed past him unnoticed. That night, as Mark sat in a tiny chair in Lily's classroom, watching her proudly point to her painting of what appeared to be a purple dog, or possibly a horse, his phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. "Hope the art show is going well. I meant what I said about my door being open. Sometimes sharing the burden makes it lighter." Mark smiled at the message, appreciating his boss's unexpected kindness, but completely missing its deeper meaning. By the third week, Mark was running on fumes. He'd improved at work, yes, but at what cost? Lily was becoming clingy and difficult, sensing his stress and absence. The babysitter had commented that she seemed more withdrawn lately. The guilt was crushing. On Wednesday morning, Catherine stopped him in the hallway. "Mark, do you have lunch plans today?" He shook his head. "Just eating at my desk. Trying to finish the quarterly projections." "Perfect. I'll order in. Come to my office at noon, I want to discuss something with you." At lunch, Catherine had arranged for gourmet sandwiches from the deli down the street. As they ate, she steered the conversation away from work. "How's Lily doing?" she asked, her tone genuinely interested. Mark sighed, the facade of professional competence cracking slightly. "Struggling, honestly. She misses her mom, and now I'm barely there either." Catherine nodded sympathetically. "I can't imagine how difficult that must be. For both of you." Something in her voice made Mark look up. Catherine was watching him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. "It's been 18 months, he said quietly. "Everyone expects us to be moving on by now. But grief doesn't work that way, especially for a child." "And for you?" Catherine asked softly. Mark shrugged, unused to discussing his personal feelings, especially with his boss. "I'm surviving. One day at a time." Catherine seemed to make a decision. "Mark, I've been thinking. Your position is important, but perhaps we could restructure it somewhat. Create more flexibility for your situation. What do you mean? You could work from home 2 days a week. We could adjust deadlines around Lily's schedule. There are options. Mark stared at her, stunned by the offer. Why would you do that? Catherine held his gaze. Because you're valuable to this company. And because She paused, then continued more professionally, I believe in supporting employees through difficult times. I don't know what to say, Mark admitted. Say you'll think about it, Catherine replied. And maybe we could discuss it further outside of work? Perhaps dinner this weekend? Mark, overwhelmed by the work accommodation offer, completely missed the personal invitation beneath it. Let me check my schedule with Lily's babysitter. I'll let you know. Catherine's smile dimmed slightly, but she nodded. Of course. The fourth hint went unrecognized. That weekend, Mark forgot to follow up about dinner. Monday morning, he arrived at work to find Catherine unusually distant. When he tried to apologize for not getting back to her about the schedule adjustments, she waved him off. It was just an idea, Mark. Don't worry about it. For the next few days, their interactions were strictly professional. Mark noticed the change but attributed it to Catherine being busy with a major client presentation. He focused on his own work, determined to prove he could handle his responsibilities. On Thursday, the company announced an upcoming charity gala. Attendance was expected for all senior staff. Mark immediately began calculating babysitting costs and wondering if his one decent suit still fit. Later that afternoon, Catherine stopped by his office. About the gala, she said without preamble. I know arranging childcare for evening events can be challenging. Mark nodded, grateful she understood. I'll figure something out. Actually, Catherine continued, I thought perhaps we could attend together. That way, you could bring Lily to my place beforehand. My sister will be there with my niece, they could have a sleepover. It would save you the trouble of finding a sitter. Mark blinked, surprised by the offer. That's incredibly generous, but I couldn't impose like that. It's not an imposition, Catherine insisted. In fact, I'd enjoy the company. These events can be tedious alone. Well, when you put it that way, Mark said with a small smile, it would be nice not to walk in by myself. Thank you. Catherine's expression brightened. Wonderful. We could have dinner first, if you'd like. Make an evening of it. Sounds great, Mark agreed, still not recognizing the fifth hint that his boss might be interested in more than a professional relationship. The night of the gala arrived. Mark dropped Lily off at Catherine's elegant townhouse, where she was immediately whisked away by Catherine's niece to see a collection of stuffed animals. Catherine's sister gave him a knowing smile that he didn't quite understand. Catherine herself looked stunning in a deep blue gown, her auburn hair swept up elegantly. Mark felt underdressed in his old suit, despite having splurged on a new tie for the occasion. You look beautiful, he said honestly as they walked to her car. Thank you, she replied, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. You clean up pretty well yourself. Dinner was at an upscale restaurant where Catherine was clearly a regular. The conversation flowed easily, moving from work to books to travel. For the first time in months, Mark felt like himself again, not just a grieving widower or an overwhelmed father, but a person with thoughts and interests. I haven't laughed this much in ages, he admitted as they shared a dessert. Catherine smiled, reaching across the table to briefly touch his hand. It suits you. Laughing. Something in her touch sent an unexpected jolt through him. Mark pulled his hand back slightly, confused by his reaction. Catherine noticed, her smile faltering momentarily. At the gala, they circulated among Pinnacle's clients and partners. Mark was surprised to discover how well they worked as a team, seamlessly continuing each other's conversations and highlighting each other's points. Several people commented on what a lovely couple they made, which Mark awkwardly corrected each time. After one such correction, Catherine excused herself to the ladies' room. When she returned, something had changed. She was more reserved, keeping a careful distance between them. As they drove back to her place to collect Lily, the comfortable atmosphere had evaporated. Mark, sensing the shift but not understanding it, tried to fill the silence. "Thank you for tonight. It was actually fun, which I wasn't expecting." Catherine kept her eyes on the road. "I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you for everything with Lily. Your sister seems wonderful." "She is," Catherine agreed. After a pause, she added, "Mark, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Are you open to the idea of dating again? Eventually, I mean." The question caught him off guard. I haven't really thought about it. Between work and Lily, there hasn't been time. But if there was time?" Catherine pressed gently. "If you met someone who understood your situation, who cared about both you and Lily?" Finally, the hints began to coalesce in Mark's mind. The dinner invitations, the personal texts, the offers of help with Lily. He looked at Catherine with new understanding, seeing not just his boss but a woman who had been trying to connect with him for weeks. "Catherine, are you?" "Forget I asked," she said quickly, pulling into her driveway. "It was inappropriate." "No, it's not that," Mark fumbled. "I just didn't realize. I mean, I never thought someone like you would be interested in someone like me." Catherine turned to face him, vulnerability clear in her expression. "Someone like me? Successful, beautiful, put together," Mark explained. "I'm a mess, Catherine. A grieving single dad who can barely manage his job, let alone a relationship." "That's not how I see you," she said softly. "I see someone strong enough to keep going despite unimaginable loss. Someone who puts his daughter first, always. Someone who refuses to give up." Mark was speechless, touched by her perception and terrified by the possibility she represented. Before he could respond, Catherine's front door opened, and Lily came running out in her pajamas, followed by Catherine's sister. The moment was lost in the chaos of collecting Lily's things and saying goodbyes. As they were leaving, Catherine said quietly, "Think about what I said, Mark. No pressure. Just, think about it." He nodded, still processing the revelation that his boss had feelings for him. The following week at work was awkward. Mark avoided Catherine when possible, unsure how to navigate their new dynamic. When they did interact, it was stiffly professional on both sides. By Friday, Catherine called him into her office. "This isn't working," she said bluntly once the door was closed. Mark's heart sank. "The job? I thought I was improving." "Not the job," Catherine interrupted. "This awkwardness between us. I made things uncomfortable, and I apologize." "You don't need to apologize," Mark insisted. "I'm the one who's been avoiding you." Catherine sighed. "I crossed a line. You work for me, and I put you in an impossible position. If you want to report this to HR, I completely understand." "Report you? For what? Being kind to me? Offering to help with my daughter?" Mark shook his head. "Catherine, I'm not avoiding you because I'm uncomfortable with your interest. I'm avoiding you because I don't know what to do with it." "What do you mean?" Mark ran a hand through his hair. "I haven't thought about dating since Emma died. I haven't allowed myself to. And now suddenly I'm having feelings for my boss, which is complicated on so many levels, and I don't know if I'm ready, or if it's fair to Lily, or if—" "You have feelings for me?" Catherine interrupted, her professional composure slipping. Mark stopped, realizing what he'd admitted. Yes. I think I do. But that doesn't mean I know what to do about it." Catherine's expression softened. "We could figure it out together. Slowly. And work? The company has policies about this sort of thing, doesn't it?" with a small smile. But only if you're interested. If not, we forget this conversation ever happened, and continue as colleagues. Mark took a deep breath. I need time to think. And to talk to Lily. She has to come first in any decision I make. I wouldn't expect anything less, Catherine said. Take all the time you need. Over the weekend, Mark found himself watching Lily as she played in the park, trying to imagine how she might react to him dating someone. Would she see it as betraying her mother's memory? Would she resent Catherine? Or could she perhaps benefit from having another caring adult in her life? That evening, after tucking Lily into bed, he pulled out the photo album they rarely looked at anymore. Emma smiled back at him from their wedding photo.